We're going to get our worship on. Good morning. Love and blessings to you, precious, precious ones. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Wow, here we are in a new year. Get to dust off from the past year and open and see what's possible, what wants to move within us. Have you really released the last year so that you're ready to go forward? So this is a good motto right here, I thought. And no matter how badly life treated you last year, just walk tall with your head held high. This is a brand new year, baby. All right. I know some have felt like that. Yeah. Oh, this is a wonderful time. So glad you're here today. Welcome. I also add my welcome to any of you who might be guests here. Welcome to what I think is the greatest teaching since sliced bread. And it's just a great thing. And so excited to share it with you. So excited. So here we are in January, and we're beginning to really look at life in a new way and really get ourselves grounded in what can work in our life. And I just got to tell you, the other day I was in a waiting room, and I picked up this magazine, and there was right in the middle of the page, there was this ad from a financial company, I don't know what to call it, financial advisor company. And it said, now you can borrow all the money to get completely out of debt. And I thought, now that's an old way of perpetuating, the limitations and the old patterns of what's going on. I really did. Now I can borrow all the money to get completely out of debt. All right. Oh, and I like this too, because I bet you, a bunch of you have been working on resolutions and things like that. Yeah? You're not? Oh, well, all right. Well, for those of you who have, we got trouble in the front row, ushers. But anyway, Eddie, for those of you who have, I saw this great cartoon, Angus and Pete, I think, or whoever, Phil, I don't know. Anyway, it's a dog and a cat who are sitting with their back to us. And the dog says, now what is this thing called a New Year's resolution? And the cat says, oh, it's a to-do list for the first week of January. Yeah. And that tends to be the way it is. So that's why I want to talk to you before we get into this message. You thought we were in the message now, but no, this isn't it. This doesn't count. But what counts now is to talk to you about really what can help this year really launch in incredible fashion. I want to talk to you about two classes that are coming up. First of all, on the 16th of January, a Saturday, a couple Saturdays from now, I'll be teaching a class I look forward to each and every year. It's a 4-hour class, but so very powerful, called A Life That Works. And what we're going to be looking at is not just to-do lists, but we'll be looking at the patterns of our living day by day that we can shift, so that we create a structure for fulfillment, that the dreams and yearnings that we have a chance to really succeed and don't get sabotaged. And then we'll also bring in, and that's some of the work of Stephen Covey that I introduced to you, and then we also bring in the work of Stephen Pressfield as he talks about resistance, so that we not only have a new design for how we're going to live and new patterns that we choose, but how to meet the resistance that inevitably comes up. And so it's a really powerful 4-hour class. I hope you'll join me for that. It'll be Saturday the 16th from 9 to 1 over in the Vote Center Auditorium. And then while you're also deciding to do that, I invite you into our Science of Mind and Spirit courses. We are beginning a whole new set of courses. They'll begin the end of January. You advanced students, classes are ready to be registered for. For those of you new, the first step is called Beyond Limits, Science of Mind and Spirit 101, Beyond Limits. And it's a wonderful class. 8 sessions. I love teaching it. Reverend Barry teaches the morning installment. I teach the evening. It's just a great way to dive right into these teachings and get them really anchored deeply and working effectively in all that you think and do. And it's a great deal, too, after a modest administration of materials fee. The class is yours for the love offering of your choice, received toward the end of the class. So dive into this. And we just want to see us all really just move forward and launch into a great new year. All right, as Dr. Raz shared, January, there's a tradition throughout this movement, this spiritual movement, all of our centers and churches, we return to the basics in January. And I always look forward to that because I believe that that's where this stuff really lives and takes on vibrancy. And in the 40 years I've been doing this, every time I return to the basics, I deepen, I learn more, and they come to life more in me. So welcome to this series on the basics. Our theme for 2016 is Master Keys to a Great and Growing Life. Master Keys to a Great and Growing Life. In this 5-part series starting today, I'll be talking about 10 dynamic keys that are really the heart and soul of this teaching that can open us into our greater dimensions of good in our life. But before I dive into the first one, I want to just give a little background, especially for those of you who are guests with us. Our founder, his name is Dr. Ernest Holmes. He did the bulk of his work from 1919 to 1960. He was a tremendously powerful speaker and teacher. He had a passion to teach the universal spiritual principles that he held to be at the heart and soul of all the great faith teachings, but had been lost or had been obscured. He called these teachings the golden thread of truth, wending its way through all of the faith paths. And that's what our hangings there depict, this golden thread of truth through all of the faith paths. And he felt that if we could reconnect with those truths and start to live them collectively, it would return humanity to our natural healing powers and to our creative capacities, and thus set us back on the path of fulfilling our higher destiny. Now, the first thing that Dr. Holmes did was create an educational institute. That's our deepest heritage. And it was only later that he agreed to the formation of a spiritual movement of centers and churches. And that's why our classes are so important. They're our deepest heritage. It's what we do so very powerfully, on behalf of these new thought teachings, as they are sometimes called. And we're providing a realization of ageless principles along with the tools that every one of us can utilize to put them to work. For indeed, this is a practical spirituality, a practical spirituality. Now, a few other background notes. Our teaching is called the science of mind and spirit, sometimes shortened to be simply the science of mind. And the movement that we're a part of is the Centers for Spiritual Living. Now, we used to be a part of what was called religious science, but that created too much confusion. So I want to clarify right now what we're not. We are not Christian Science. We are not Scientology, although there's nothing wrong with those. But we are not that. Nor are we traditional religion, or religion in the traditional sense. And instead, what we really are is a response to a deep spiritual yearning. Now, I know that a lot of folks call us a cult, but we're not a cult, because one of the trademarks of cults is trying to control people and program them into what to think. And we don't try to tell you what to think, we teach you how to think. And we don't want to control your life, we want to free your life. Besides, you people are uncontrollable anyway. We figured that out a whole long time ago. This is a response to a deep yearning. It's really a response to those who are more frequently in our culture checking the none box under religion, who have not found their home or are leaving what they feel to be exclusivist, rigid doctrinal teachings that restrict people or judge people. People who are leaving fear and guilt-based theologies and are seeking something more. Seeking a way to live effectively, seeking some heart and soul satisfaction in their lives. That's what this teaching responds to, and why I believe it to be growing and touching many, many more lives. So basically, we are a spiritual path of depth, love, and joy. We're a philosophy of wholeness, and we are a science of success. So, with that background, let's get into the first master key. And as our topic is today, it is the ultimate key. Everything else is built upon this master key. And this master key is as follows. Realize the divine life principle in yourself and in all. Realize the divine life principle and presence in yourself and in all. A divine life presence. This is so powerful. This is an ultimate key, to be sure. Early in his work, Dr. Holmes was asked to write down or to express succinctly the basic essence of our teachings. And I'm told that in about a 15-minute session, he very quickly wrote down a document on one side of a page, which became a classic. It was so clear, so powerful. It was later called our Declaration of Principles, Not rigid doctrines by any means, but guidelines as to what we base our whole premises upon. And it was changed from what he wrote, he said what I believe, to what we believe. And I want to share with you the first several lines of this classic statement. He said, we believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. So beautiful. Returning us to an ageless truth. Creation and creator are one. Oneness. All that is created and its creator are not separated from each, but are one. An infinite and universal life force in which everything, from the tiniest to the greatest, lives, and through which everything is expressing the one life, the one power, the presence. Expressing in all things, creating all things, evolving all things, one life, one power, one intelligence. You can call this God if you choose, unless that harkens to old notions that don't work for you. You can call it spirit or love or the infinite, the divine, the universal, whatever works for you. It's greater than any name we could ever give it anyway. Know that it is one power, and everything is living within that power. So it is the presence and the power. It is the energy and the intelligence. It is the substance and the spirit of all of life. And through its motive to express itself, its love for its possibilities, it moves itself into form as everything that is, and as you and as me. One life and one power, one presence. Now, this is very similar to the findings of quantum science, which really is bringing forth a deep corroboration of ancient spiritual teachings. Because quantum science has realized that the search for the tiniest building block of matter is futile, because there's a point at which matter dissolves into the invisible. And they call this the field of pure potentiality, or the unified field. And it's out of this invisible field of consciousness, they call it, matter emerges out of that. This is basically what we're saying. There's this one infinite intelligence, life force, and energy, and out of it, all the cosmos emerges, down to the tiniest particles of matter. Everything emerges out of this one life and this one field. Now, you probably are beginning to grasp that this is a whole lot different than some of the traditional beliefs about God. For us, God is not a man in a distant place, maybe clouds and stuff going on, and all of the accoutrements there, not in a long flowing robe, having not shaved for eons, and not a being to be feared, not a being that is harshly and relentlessly judging us, but a being that is the very love and the life and the energy of the universe, that is omnipresent, all present within itself, giving life and form to all things. Oh, and what this does, beloved ones, is it dissolves what we call around here the illusion of separation. And our founder suggests that all of human troubles, and our personal troubles, if we boil them down, are all based on this illusion of separation. We have bought into the illusion, born of our senses, that we're separate. We're separate from one another, we believe, which isn't the deepest truth, but we believe it. We believe we're separate from the earth. We believe we're separate from our Creator. And in this separation-mindedness, fear grows, and all our troubles are spawned from the illusion of separation. It is our purpose to heal this illusion by realizing this divine life presence, this oneness in us, around us, through us, and for us. And what great good news this is. So good. You are a unique expression of this oneness. You see, here's the other beautiful thing. This teaches us that who we really are is this one life. That this life, this love, this divine presence is your true self. It is the spiritual light in you. When the great teacher said, "You are the light of the world," he was saying, shine your truth, shine your spirit. Let go of the earthly trappings and identities and return to who you really are as a spiritual being. Yes, having a human and a worldly experience, but always primarily a spiritual being. And so we get to realize that and claim that in our lives. Again, from that What We Believe document, Dr. Holmes writes, "We believe in the individualization of the Spirit in us, and that all people are individualizations of the one Spirit." Now, this is what the great teacher, the master teacher Jesus, meant when he said, "I and the Father are one." When he said, "The kingdom of God is within you." When he said, "You are God's, and all of you children of the Most High." It's what is also expressed in the Bible as, in God we live, move, and have our very being. In God. And I've always liked the lines from Ephesians, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. Thus I call you on this first Sunday, as we deepen into the basics again, to realize this divine life presence in you. Your true self, your God-ordained self, the possible self, the spiritual light of you. And know that you are one with all that is, and you live, move, and have your very being in your Creator. And now just imagine, I'll get more into this in just a bit, but imagine were we to live like that, to open to that, to allow that to express through us. Some other words from our founder. At the center of our being, there is a divine person, a unique expression of God. The question is whether we are living from this center or whether we are thinking of ourselves as separated and inadequate. There could be no more beautiful thought than that the divine Spirit itself, infinite as it is also within us. And with this acceptance of God, there must come an acceptance of the real self. That self which blossoms in our relations with others and finds fruition in its own action. You see, we have been given free choice and conscious awareness, and we'll talk next week about that more in depth. But in those gifts, we have also been given the prerogative to forget, to go astray in our thinking about ourselves, to heap on ourselves all sorts of limitation and all sorts of misguided notions, error thinking about ourselves. And we train ourselves to live that way. And the universe, we'll understand even more fully next week, corresponds to that self-concept. Our first step is to greatly expand our concept, not in an egotistical way, but in a truth way, that you are a God-ordained spiritual being, here to have life and to have it more abundantly, here to be a servant of the truth, here to be an instrument of peace and love and joy. And oh, how life abounds and grows when we do this. You are unique as well. Some of you are even more unique than others. We are all unique expressions. And that's a beautiful thing, isn't it? I mean, the universe, our Creator, is so boundless in possibility. It didn't create just one rose, but the possibility for hundreds and hundreds of varieties of those flowers and of every flower and of all of creation and of all of us. And we're all expressing that one life in a unique way. I love it when Dr. Holmes said, God placed the stamp of individuality upon itself and called it you. God placed the stamp of individuality upon itself and it's called it you. You are individualizing, uniquely expressing that one life. And as we also then begin to reclaim and respect our uniqueness as a means by which the divine life is celebrating itself as us, we're also called, and this teaching calls us, to remember our oneness. That we are both unique and we're the same, in somewhat of a spiritual paradox. We're all unique expressions, but not separated from the one. And we all have our roots in the one life and the one love that is the divine. And I know that not only do we need to respect and honor our uniqueness, but more than ever, humankind needs to honor our oneness. Our sacred sameness transcends our human differences. I'll say that again. Our sacred sameness transcends our human differences. And we take this to heart. Oh, this is such a wonderful master key to begin our new year with. And I want to invite us to leave here practicing this and making it real within us, because if it just lives up here as a fancy theory, it doesn't get us anywhere. So I'm going to invite you to move into the nearness, the newness, and the nowness of this divine spirit of which you are an expression. And so step number 1 for this coming week, awaken to the nearness. Oh, awaken to the nearness. Awakening is an important thing. You know, you and I, we can have dreams. And I know if you're like me, my dreams seem absolutely real while I'm dreaming them. But then, of course, we awaken. And we realize that that dream state, though it seemed real, is that wasn't real in its ultimate sense, that there was a greater dimension of reality holding us. And we awaken out of our dreams to that reality. This world, this incarnation of yours in body at this time in this world, is much like a dream. Now, of course, it seems to have substance and weight and apparent power, but it's actually a temporary dream held in a larger reality. And I invite you to sense that you're held in a larger reality. I know you're going about your daily business, you're doing the best you can, you're setting dreams, you're aspiring, you're trying to overcome setbacks, deal with pain and open to forgiving and all of the agendas of our lives, fulfilling our possibilities, all to do that knowing that we can awaken out of that as being our power and realize the nearness of that infinite love, that infinite power, that infinite intelligence that holds us as we move through this temporary time on this planet. Oh, as it says in the Bible, nearer than breathing, closer than hands and feet is the divine. You know, I wished I had, oh my goodness, the times I've struggled in my life, oh, I wished I'd known that more. Had somebody come along and kick me in the spiritual awareness and remind me that, hey, you're not alone. It's like a fish in an ocean longing for the water. No, you're held in this larger reality. Its infinite intelligence is pressing against you, but you got to open. You got to awaken to it. It's guidance, it's love, it's support. It's supreme confidence. It's light. It's right where we are. I want us to remember that as we go into this new year. Right where you are, nearer than breathing, closer than hands and feet. You got to develop your spiritual antennae for it. You know, you can either just give your full attention to all the reports of the senses in the world, which are overwhelming at times, or you can do as it says in the Bible, be still and know. Become still. And then, you know, raise your spiritual antennae. Remember that show, My Favorite Martian? You millennials, look into Netflix and Hulu, and you can see what it was. Many of us remember. But, you know, he could raise his antennae at will. And I invite us to elevate our spiritual antennae, that we might also receive a higher frequency of understanding and of livingness and of intelligence and of love. And then we'll walk in a brand new way in this world. In one of my recently completed Beyond Limits classes, a student told me how she got into the class. She said that 3 or 4 months earlier, she had been on a beach somewhere, I forget where, and she was walking along and just minding her own business, and all of a sudden, she heard a voice that wasn't of this world. And I believe these things are available to us if we're really receptive. And this voice said to her, "You are never alone." And with it came a rush and a wave of emotion and feeling and awareness for her that was awe-inspiring to her. She didn't know what really had happened. But she came back here to Denver, and she just felt guided to pursue this. And that's when she looked up Mile High here and attended and got right into that Beyond Limits class. And she said, and it helped me anchor this, because now I know that when we teach oneness, at the same time we're teaching, you are never alone. Never alone. And that's what those who've gone beyond the veil in a near-death experience report to us as well. They realized that however immersed they had been in their worldly life, they're inducted into this enormous light, which is all intelligent and love. It's healing of them, loving of them at a level they can hardly communicate in human words. And then they re-engage in this life, resuscitated in this life, and everything begins to be different. And that leads us to the second step. As you, first of all, awaken to the nearness, I invite you to open to the newness. Because the more that we walk in a sense of the nearness of the divine, that we're in a field of oneness that has everything in it we need, we actually open to the restorative power of that presence. And then things can begin to happen within us that are bigger than we could ever imagine or instigate on our own. Really, what's going on is the realization that your source is always conspiring for your highest and best. No matter what's going on in our choices, the universe is always biased on the side of our success and our becoming. It's always working for your highest and best. And the more you awaken and attune to the nearness and open to the newness, you find yourself being moved rather than trying to move everything. You find yourself being guided rather than trying to manipulate everything. Rather than being dragged through this life, you find yourself flowing in a brand new way, and you find newness emerging that is of a part of you bigger than that human ego self. It's the soul self, finally given the opportunity to blossom. First as a seed beneath the soil, then as a seedling, then a yearling, and eventually into the beautiful oak of spirit we're all designed to be in our own unique way. The newness. Behold, I make all things new, it says. Be ye renewed by the renewing of your mind. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Oh, to do this is such a beautiful and a powerful thing. I got to share with you one of my favorite little tidbits written by another minister, and his name is Tony Campolo. And I just have loved this. I've shared it before, but please indulge me. I just enjoy this. He said, there's a Pentecostal college near Eastern College where I teach. Now, I'm not Pentecostal, but I talk so fast that I think they think I'm speaking in tongues, so it works out okay. One day they invited me to speak, and I like speaking there because they're a happy people. Just before I spoke, 8 guys took me into a back room of the chapel and got me down on my knees. They laid their hands on my head and prayed for me. Well, that was good. I need all the prayer I can get. There was only one problem. These guys prayed for a long time. And one guy wasn't even praying for me. Instead, he went on and on praying for somebody named Charlie Stolitz. Dear Lord, he shouted, you know Charlie Stolitz. He lives in that silver trailer down the road about a mile. You know the trailer, Lord, just down the road on the right-hand side. And I felt like saying, knock it off, fella. What do you think God's doing, asking for directions? Come on. Anyway, he went on and on. Lord, Charlie told me this morning he's decided to leave his wife and 3 kids. He told me he was walking out on his family. Lord, step in, do something, bring the people of that family back together again. And all the while I'm kneeling there with 8 guys leaning on my head. And finally, they finished the prayers, and I went to the pulpit and preached. And after I finished, got in my car and drove to the Pennsylvania Turnpike and headed for home. As I drove onto the turnpike, I noticed a hitchhiker. Now, I know you're not supposed to pick them up, but I'm a preacher, and whenever I can get anybody locked in as a captive audience, I do it. I love this guy. So I stopped and picked him up. We drove a few minutes, and I said, hi, my name's Tony Campolo. What's yours? And he said, my name is Charlie Stolitz. I couldn't believe it. I got off the turnpike at the next exit and headed back. He got a bit uneasy with that, and after a few minutes, he said, hey, mister, where are you taking me? And I said, I'm taking you home. He said, why? And I said, because you just left your wife and 3 children, right? Well, that blew him away. Yeah, that's right. With shock written all over his face, he plastered himself against the car door and never took his eyes off me. I drove off the turnpike at the next level, then I really did him in as I drove right to his silver trailer. And when I pulled up, his eyes seemed to bulge. He said, how'd you know I lived here? And I said, God told me. And I believe God did tell me in a way. Well, we got out of the car and I ordered him to get in the trailer. And he said, right, mister, sure, I'm going. And when he opened the trailer door, his wife exclaimed, you're back. He then whispered in her ear, and the more he talked, the bigger her eyes got. And then I said with real authority, the 2 of you sit down. I'm going to talk to you, and you 2 are going to listen. And man, did they listen. And he concludes, that afternoon, those two people's lives were restored. A healthy dose of wonder and amazement opened them to a brand new marriage and dreams for a whole new life. And by the way, Charlie Stolitz is a minister now and doing quite well. What wants to birth through you? Are you open? Open to that newness. And then finally, surrender to the nowness. Let down your guard and surrender to the mighty presence of the living Spirit right where you are. Right where you are. Beloved, now we are the sons and daughters of God. It's written now, right now. In your very midst is this power pressing against you. And it wants to use you and me. I just love that prayer of St. Francis, one of the greatest ever composed, along with the prayer of the Master, when he said, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Oh, another way to know this nearness of the divine is devote yourself to that in this now moment. How in this moment can I be an instrument of that love and that light and that peace? How can I be its instrument? It happened in Copenhagen. It was at a railway station, much like our light rail, and a video was being recorded, and there were people milling about waiting for the train to arrive. The train arrived, and they boarded. And as the doors shut in this crowded, long train car, all of a sudden, as it began to move, they heard a flute beginning to play a melody, much like this. In fact, exactly this one. And then an oboe joined in with the flute. And then other strings that had been positioned along the outside of the car, on the outside and the inside, they began to play. They played selection from Peer Gynt. It was the Copenhagen Philharmonic simply desiring to give a gift to these people in their weary travels from work or wherever they're going. And all of a sudden, people lit up as they're surrounded by this incredible symphony. Smiles break out, and tears start to show up in people's eyes. Kids light up. The whole diversity of the people on the train, it seems like bonded in that moment. And then the train doors opened when they arrived, and the many who arrived as separate beings were bonded, and they left as one. With the great lesson being that it doesn't take that much to remind us that we're all connected. Now, you may not be a professional musician, but you can be an instrument, a glorious and a beautiful, a wondrous instrument. Surrender to that now moment as life invites you to do this.